Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be walking through my process of how I plan out a page. I've always found this to be the most difficult and intimidating part of coloring because it can really make or break a page. And from what I've seen in the comments, a lot of you feel similarly. And so a lot of you have thanked me for including that in my color with me and my completed pages, showing you the color palettes I choose and how I choose them. So I thought I would make a specific video all about that and piece together different methods and tips that I have found along the way in hopes that it would help some of you. So I am so excited about this video, and I did just also briefly want to mention at the start of this that really soon I will be releasing a brand new series all about alcohol markers. And the first episode is going to be comparing alcohol markers to water-based and putting both to the test and talking through that with you all. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, please consider subscribing and coming back next week to see that. Some of the other videos in the series will include alcohol markers bleeding and blending and maintenance of them, and just really in-depth videos showing tips and tricks that I've found along the way in my coloring journey. And I'm really excited about that and sharing it with you all. So please consider subscribing. But without further ado, today we will be talking about how to choose a color palette. So I hope that you enjoy this video. The first method that I often use is Sarah Renee Clark's color catalog. You guys have heard me mention this so much because I have found it really helpful in my coloring journey. I feel like it goes without saying, but I am not sponsored in any way. I just genuinely love her color catalog and color cubes. Let me actually grab one of the cubes as well. If you are new to my channel and aren't familiar with what I am talking about, Sarah Renee Clark is a YouTuber that makes amazing videos about coloring. And a few years ago, she came out with something called the color catalog. I fell in love with it and immediately purchased it, and then I decided I wanted to make it into books. The first video I posted was how I made it into these books, and if you are interested, you can go see that video, but I would recommend going to the comments and the description first because it's very unedited and chatty. So jump ahead to there for timestamps as well as PDFs of the covers. That way, all you have to do is upload the cover and the content from Sarah Renee Clark's site to create the book. I find that having a physical copy to flip through as a book is not only beautiful, but it also sparks more inspiration for me as I just quickly flip through and I can see everything at a glance. I also like having it out next to me while I'm coloring a page, and it's easier to travel with than coloring cubes that she sells, which is, speaking of, the other product I do have and bought specifically for video making so that I would only show one of her color palettes at a time and not give away her hard work. I made an unboxing video about these and my initial thoughts if you want to go see that. But in short, I've really enjoyed having these cards and I've been really impressed with the quality. Although the cubes are harder to travel with, if I already have a palette picked out, I can easily take the card with me. But the book offers a great way to flip through everything at a glance, and the card is a great way to see different shades and values, because that's one thing I meant to show. It has on the back here different options, which the color catalog, that's a digital copy on her site, and the one on my book, it doesn't have these different shades, which is a nice touch as well. And these are easy to hold up to your swatch cards and find similar colors. Alternatively, she does sell the color catalog digitally, like I said, and that there are links that you can just jump ahead that have keywords, categories, and colors. There are pros and cons to all of these, but I just wanted to mention them in case you're interested in trying to decide for yourself which to purchase or go with. So, like I said, I have a video about how I made these, and then the cubes are on her site, and then the actual content of these books is also purchasable on her site. I'm not sure, that for some reason that sounds wrong. So basically, how I use these is I swatch. I pick a color palette that I want, and then I swatch them, which is tip number one. I really recommend getting a clipboard and having a page on it to swatch while you're picking out colors. This is the current page that I'm working on right now, and you can see it's kind of got chicken scratch, and I was planning out which colors are for what, and then I'm gonna, once I finish the page, I'm gonna officially put which colors I used on this for my completed monthly pages video. But I find this is so easy to pull out and to do while I'm looking at the page, and I don't have to have a hard surface because the book's on the desk, and then I can use this. So something about having this on a clipboard and just easily swatchable, I'm making up words today, it really helps me. So that is tip number 1. And then let me show you some examples of me using the color palettes, because this one isn't a great example because I didn't actually use a palette for this. I just wanted to show you my little clipboard trick here. Real quick, one thing I forgot to mention is that the Color Catalog Companion is also available on her site, and this has the palettes, and then depending on which thing that you use, which type of media you use, she has already picked out what colors match which on the color palette. And I do love this and I do use it, but I will say that I often, after I swatch, decide that I want to do a different shade or a different color. So it's a great starting point and takes away a lot of the legwork for me, but I always swatch them before. And she, like I said, has multiple different ones. The color of this one's actually yellow, and I put a black and white filter on it for the cover of this book. The first example of this method that I have is from my last video that I posted in Little Corner. I did a color with me, and it looks like this. So you can see me do this more in depth and kind of talk through my process in that video, but I chose the color palette 105, and I just thought this really looked like a pet shop, and so I tried to really stick to it. And this is a great example of choosing a color palette and then going with those colors. And another option, or way you can use it, I should say, is in a mandala book. I love taking one of these. It's actually my favorite way to use them, is because I like using just a few colors in these. And so I'll show you the one I used for this was number 367, and obviously the colors are a little different because I was using glitter gel pens, so my colors were limited. I didn't have as much of a variety, but I used this as inspiration for this page. And then similarly, there is one I did in here that are these pastel colors, and I love doing these. I've mentioned it before on my page, but I love taking one of these to bed with the just few markers, 5 or 6 markers, and doing these before bed. Let me show you the last one. Let's see, where is it? Here we go. This is number 468. And so I really like the way they turn out. It takes away any of the guesswork, and it's just a really simple way and a great starting point for you when you're doing a page. So that is method number 1. The second method is starting with a color palette and then adding in complementary colors. This allows you to have a starting point and to get the ball rolling without being so limited. And it also gives you the ability to make it your own and adjust based on the page that you chose. So, which brings me to tip number 2, which is choosing complementary colors. So I actually just got this, and it is a really great tool. I've been wanting one for a while. This side is actually for mixing colors, and it's called Pocket Color Wheel. And basically it's got the primary colors here and white and black, and you can spin this and it shows you if you mix 2 colors together. So if you mix red and yellow, then it will give you orange, and it shows you that or you can get a deep purple with blue and orange. And so it shows you all of those. It talks about value down here, and then different color hue, value, intensity, primary color, secondary, and on the back it has, this is what I was specifically talking about when you get this, is it helps you with picking out complementary colors that go with the color palette you chose. So it's got complementary, split complementary, trad, tetrad, and tetrad. But anyway, it shows you which ones are complementary to each other. And so again, it takes out the guesswork. It helps if it's not something that comes as naturally to you. It really helps. And it helps me too to pick, and once I have a color palette, to figure out what colors are missing or would go well with it and not clash. So I really recommend getting one of these. Tip number 3 is to combine color palettes. So if you don't have that wheel, or if complementary colors isn't something that comes as naturally to you, or you can't seem to get that right or remember it, or if it's just easier for you, it sometimes helps to, especially if you have the cubes, you can take out a color palette and then you can sit it next to another color palette and look for similar colors. So when I flip through the books that I have, I find color palettes specifically in the companion book that have the same markers, and I see what colors go well with those markers, and I swatch them all together and see, and I cross off the list which ones clash, and that helps me add in colors with still using the color palette. So that's tip number 3. And the first example that I have of this method is in Fantasy Tiny Homes by R.J. Hampson. And again, I did a color with me on this page as well, but I used the color palette number 93. And you can see that I added in pink here, added in green down here, and you can see me plan this out. The reason I wanted to use it as an example is if you watch that color with me, it's one of the shots where I film as I was planning it out, and you can see me flip through the different color palettes and compare 2 different ones and to combine them. And so if you're interested in this method and you want a little bit more of an in-depth example, then you could go watch the beginning of that video. Another example of this is in Crittersville, this coloring book, and I did a page with some cute cozy bears. I used the color palette 110, and you can see that there are a lot more colors than what's on here. This is actually a good example of me adding in colors poorly, because I added in this purple, and I talked about this in my January completed pages video, I believe it was, but I don't really love the purple that I added in. I think it kind of clashed, and my eyes go to this when I look at this page, and I think that it kind of takes away from the coziness since it's such a cool color. And so if you cover that up, I think this looks a lot more cozier than with the purple. So that's an example of not choosing complementary colors. But the red and the green go well together, and I still love this page, but it is an example of I added in a little bit too many colors with this. So there's definitely a balance of sticking to the color palette and not adding too many, and that's something that I have been struggling with, because I always want to just use a ton of different markers, but it can make your page look a little busy. So that's something to be cautious of. But I think I did better than I normally have on this. I tried to use the bed, it's the same here, and their PJs are the same. I was tempted to do them different, and I'd use the same purple here and the same blue on the book. So just sticking to it, especially on a more busy page like this, is really important. The final example that I have for this method is a picture in Girl Moments, which I didn't realize I had so many ones that had color with me's, but this one also does have a color with me on my channel. And again, you can see my process on there. Here's my little swatch sheet, and I used this, but then of course added in little blue eggs. The robe and this light green here are different, and the orange cats, but I definitely added in some more from this. So I just wanted to show you a few examples, and again, these all actually, except the bear one, have color with me, so you can go to my channel and see me work through this method a little bit more. But that is the second method. Number 3 is the process of elimination. So if something on a page calls out to you that you think, oh, that needs to be this color, and you have a specific color in mind for something, then start there and gradually go through the page and naturally choose what comes to you as you go throughout coloring. So the first example I have for this is in Garden Corners, and it is a hedgehog page. Nope, not that one. Sister did that one. Here we go. So this one, I knew how I wanted the hedgehog to be, and the strawberries and the daisies. And then from there, I decided what I wanted this to be, and these flowers, and this little mushroom here, and then what shades of green. But if you see something and you're like, I know I want that to be this color, and it just calls to you, then that is a great place to start, and then fill it in from there. Similarly, I did that with this one. This is from the last video I posted as well with the cats, with the pet shop. And I knew what I wanted this to look like. And then from there, I chose and just did the process of elimination. So again, this, you can also see me talk through, because it was a chatty color with me. So I actually talked through my process and what I was thinking, and completely did all the color choosing on camera and talked to you about it. So again, this is another method. If you want a more depth and example, I have a video of that on my channel. The last example for this third method is my Safari page in here. And this is another one where I decided I knew what I wanted the animals to look like and the little hut here. So I filled those in, and then from there decided what I wanted the leaves to be and these flowers and everything like that. And so this was another one that was that I did process of elimination for. And tip number 4 is, I didn't actually like the way that the hut looked with the other colors in the image. And so what I actually did is I used a colored pencil that was very similar to the tree trunk here, and I shaded on these, and it helped tie in that color. So that would be my 4th tip, is shading in with colored pencils to tie in anything that might clash or that don't seem to go well. If it stands out to you, it can help your eye flow on the page better if you add a little more shading. The next method is using nature / being realistic. So nature is the greatest art to me, and I think that God's creation is just breathtaking. So it's always a good idea for me to use that to my advantage when I'm coloring. And it works great for flowers and animals. And actually, if I pull back this one, I didn't have it listed as one of the examples, but it is a great example for this method, because I did look up, the colors of a lion and a giraffe, and kind of use that as inspirations, and the parrot. And this, I'm pretty sure I used a real flower for this as well, and a palm tree. So yeah, I actually used a lot of realism in this one as well, and tried to keep everything realistic. And the actual first example I had for this, though, is in Color Me Capybaras, and it is this page. I started by doing the alligator and the capybara, and I did them realistic, and then I knew what I wanted the water to look like. I wanted it to be kind of like a muddy bank, and then as he's swimming, he's kind of stirring up the mud, and so I, blended that throughout. And then from there, I filled it in, and this wasn't really realistic. I just filled that in, but you can see I started out with that being realistic. So that's why I wanted to show this as an example. And then the next one is in the Vegetable Lover coloring book by Jen Rachin. And this one, any books that you have like this are great when they are real things. So again, flowers, animals, veggies. She has a fruit version of this coloring book. And so I looked up on Google, which is my 5th tip. When you're trying to go a realistic route, Google is your best friend. You can look up what it looks like and then just copy the colors. That takes, again, a lot of the guesswork out of it, and it simplifies things, and you can just keep it realistic, and I love the way it turns out. I love this book, and I'm excited to fill it in and learn about different types of veggies and different species, I guess you might say, of the same kind of veggies that I didn't know about. So I think this is a really cool book. The last example for this method is actually a page I've never shown before, because it's the one I'm working on right now. So I'm kind of cheating and showing a sneak peek to my March pages. I haven't finished it. I'm so torn about what color to do this castle. I'm thinking like a terracotta, but need to play around with it some more. But this one, I looked up mallard ducks and realized that the way that he drew these, I'm pretty sure he meant them to be mallard ducks, a male and a female. And so I looked this up and found an image and copied it, and I love the way it turned out. It's one of my favorite parts of the page. I also looked up a colorful beetle. It didn't come out exactly like it is online, because it's like a metallic looking beetle, but I still think it's cute. So this is one of the ways that I used nature as a muse as well. The next method is basically being a psychopath like me and planning out every single color before you even do anything on the page. So in the same book I just showed you, actually, I did a page that's called A River Runs Through It. And you can see here, I really loved this page and I didn't want to mess it up. Although he does have 2 copies of every page in his books in case, you know, you do make a mistake or you want to give one to someone else. But I just, you know, I don't really usually color twice. So I just wanted to go ahead and get it right the first time. So I drew out the different types of tree and just sketched it roughly, and the water and the house and the bridge, mountain, sun, everything that I could that's on the page, and planned it out. So you can see here I planned out the different colors of the sun rays, and I didn't like the really dark oranges, and I'm so glad that I did swatch it and that I planned it out like this, because I was able to end up with a result that I liked. Same thing here, I wanted dark brown mountains, and then I realized I wanted them to be gray. So this is really helpful. If you're really loving a page, and if you're crazy like me, if this works best for you, then I'd say go for it. Because once you do this, it takes time, but then once you do it, it's so fun to color because you don't have to think about it. You're just coloring what you already planned out, and it's wonderful. So I just wanted to mention that. I don't often do it, but sometimes it is an option if I really love a page. The final method is really simple. If you really don't want to think about choosing colors at all, then I recommend buying books that have examples. So this really takes the deciding out of it, and there's no questions about it, and it makes it easier to color, and you can multitask and while you're watching or talking to someone. It's very mindless. So this is a book that I just showed you in my February video, but I haven't shown this page that I've done yet. Again, I'm showing another March one, but you can see here, this was the example, and then this is the image that I did. And so I was able to use my Ohuhu swatch sheets and pick out colors that matched this. And I really enjoy doing this. I mentioned this before with my storefront book that I showed you all, but I thought I wouldn't like having a page with an example, because if it didn't end up looking just like that, it would bother me. But actually having it as an example, and again, not having to think about what colors to choose because it's already planned out for you, it's really helpful, and it teaches me stuff while I'm coloring of where to shade and different techniques and the textures on these birds and her hair and putting 2 different colors. And so I really love doing that, copying an example for a lot of different reasons. But let me show you one other example. Like I said, this shopfront book is like that, and I've shown this one before. But this is different storefronts around the world. It's so cool. And it shows you at the beginning where in the world they are. But I think this is so nice. And you can see it's not perfect, but again, it's just enjoyable to sit back and copy something else and not have to plan. So I really love that. And if you're not into getting a book like this, tip number 6 is to use inspo pics or color with me's that someone posts. So you can either look up on Instagram different accounts and copy the way someone else did a page, or you can also watch color with me's on YouTube where they show you the markers and follow along with them. If you do get these books, one thing I'll say is if you color with alcohol markers and if you get a book like this, it obviously bleeds. So you have to work from the back to the front, because if I had done this page first, I would have ruined the example here, if that makes sense. So with the Asian version of this, it works out well because it's the 4 different seasons, and this is a start of summer, but because I'm about to go into spring, I could start spring without ruining what was here. I can jump into whatever season I'm in. And so I can just work through, let's say I only get through halfway this spring in this book. Well, then when it goes to summer, there's no worries because I can just start on this page. So just wanted to note that as well. So those are all the methods that I at some point have used in my coloring journey. I hope that you found at least one that helped you or inspired you in your own coloring. If you did, please let me know in the comments or let me know any methods that I might have missed or that I've never tried. Everything that I mentioned in this video will be linked in the description. And like I mentioned at the start of this, I have a new series coming out soon. And so if that is something that interests you alongside more frequent Color With Me videos, then please consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.